Welcome back to What the Fertility Season 4. This morning we're chatting with Juliana, founder of Embyr, a jewelry that was created for anyone who has a journey to motherhood. Juliana is a mom of three kiddos, two conceived naturally and the other through IVF. Embyr was inspired by her embryo transfer day, the day her second daughter was placed into her womb. Welcome, Juliana. We are so happy to have you this morning and learn more about your unique story and really what led you to create Embyr.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Ember is really near and dear to my heart. And I feel like the people that wear Ember now also feel the same way. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to share that because I do feel like it's healing a lot of people and it's helping a lot of people and it's making people feel really good and just getting the word out.
And
Um,
it's
is
stunning, by the way. I think Amanda and I both are like the dainty jewelry, the gold jewelry, and so it's so beautiful. Let's go from the start. So I know you have a really unique journey on how you became a mom into motherhood, and it started probably much sooner than most of our listeners and guests have their journey start. So just at 21, right? You had a medical diagnosis.
Right. I actually had never even kissed a boy at that point of time in my life. And so I just really had no reason to go to a gynecologist I just was in college and I was a waitress. Um, if you've been a waitress or any sort of very busy job, I used to come home to my roommates and I would complain that like my abdomen kind of hurt. And I was like, I think it's just because I hold my pee. Like I don't go to the bathroom.
So funny,
And
yeah.
my roommate was like pre-med at the time, like, you need to go to the doctor. This is not normal. And so I went to just the regular college doctor there, and they were feeling my abdomen. Like, they just press down on your abdomen. And he's like, hmm. And he says, I think you have an extra strong or muscular bladder. And I said, yeah, that makes so much sense. That's what I told my roommate. So he's like, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to send you to a gynecologist. So I go to a gynecologist who I've never seen before. I literally have never, I'm telling you, like, never kissed a boy, never had a relationship. And he's like in one place. And then he's like, and he has to go like in another place. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
I remember at 21, like that is terrifying to go to the
It
GP.
was really terrifying. And the fact too that he was like really silent and like doing all of this investigation. And so he sent me to an immediate ultrasound. And I went with my friend who, was helping me. And at the ultrasound, the ultrasound techs are not supposed to say anything to you. And so but I was like freaked out at this point. And I said, what, I need to know. I need to know what's going on. So she gets up and she goes and she gets this doctor who is not my doctor or anybody. He just kind of oversees this ultrasound facility. And he comes in and he just goes, so you see all this black, and like the whole screen was black. And he goes, um, well, actually the whole screen was black, and then right in the corner was this little, gray fuzzy stuff. And I was like, is that whatever it is? And he goes, no, it's all this black stuff.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he goes, yeah, you might have cancer.
Oh gosh.
Just like that. And they are not supposed to do that.
No, I mean, well,
And
not supposed to do that for any result, but yet alone, like he may have cancer.
yeah, so I left that place and I like made eye contact with my friend as I was walking out, and she just knew something was up, and she walked outside with me, and I just like broke down. And so it was already after 5, but she was like, you need to go back to that gynecologist. And so I drove back there, and I remember just banging on his door, like, please just open. I don't know what's going on. And luckily he did. And then I sat down with him and he pulled the ultrasound, and then he was like, yeah, um, he's right. It might be, but so basically, long story short, is that was emergency surgery that happened. They did not know what it was, and supposedly it was so big that they just felt like they didn't have time to check it and do a biopsy. They were just going to take it out and do a biopsy.
Wow.
So I had to sign this piece of paper that said you might wake up without a uterus because they just didn't know. And I
So
was
it's
like,
21, like
wow.
so scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really scary. I had just never thought of that, but adoption is in my family, like in my and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna be okay with this, and this is just what's gonna happen. And um, but and I talk about this sometimes is when I was going under anesthesia. You know how you don't know what you're saying, or I don't know if you've been through a surgery, but you sort of
Yeah.
go through anesthesia, and I don't know what I was saying. But when I woke up, the doctor like whispered in my ear, he's like, "You can have your babies."
Oh,
And like I was like so relieved, but I also said, "Wait, why would he use that phrase?" And I really think that as I was going under, I was like saying something, I really want to have my babies. And
that is so
um
sweet.
because
And
that
like,
was just something that I would say.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like at 21 too. I mean, and it's like at 21, you're like, I want to make sure I'm healthy. I want to make sure I'm okay. So to have that foresight of like, I really want also to have children, that just has to be so complex, like in your mind during that time.
Yeah, maybe because I feel like I wasn't a typical 21-year-old though. I mean, since I was like 11, I just wanted to have my babies, I was
Oh,
planning on that and my family and my perfect husband and like all those things were really in my
yeah.
mind. But this tumor was soccer ball sized and
Goodness.
but it
Are you
was fully encapsulated in my left ovary. So they were able to just take the whole ovary out and they put a clamp on that left fallopian tube. So I have one ovary and one uterus. And it wasn't until 10 years later when I actually had my first daughter, because I was never really sure. I was like, what does it mean to have one ovary? And fun fact, people always hesitate to ask me is when you have one ovary, they say, do you skip your period or do you have a period every other month? And you don't. It just takes over and then you have a period every month. The ovaries figure it out.
I've learned that through like learning about women with ectopic stories and those journeys where they lose their tube or they lose their ovary. That is so like crazy that it just so then it just every month is the ovary that's producing the egg. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So my right ovary's just been on hyperdrive. It's amazing.
So during those 10 years, was that constantly in the back of your head, or you were like, you know what, I think everything's gonna be okay if it's not adoption, something that I'm familiar with and comfortable with. And so not until around 30, 31 is that when your fertility experience and journey restarted?
I would say it made me very scared about what else was just hiding in my body that was ball sites and I didn't know about.
Ah, I bet.
Right? So I definitely went through that phase where I felt like I had to get every test in the world. Like I remember I went and got a colonoscopy, right? I mean, I just
Yeah.
was totally freaked. But
rightfully?
those things they kind of fade away as you just are living your life and you're um, doing things you sort of it just becomes less like new and scary. But as when I met my husband, I got married, I told him everything and I was just like, I think everything's fine. Like I have normal periods and uh, so yeah, it wasn't too bad. I'm
And
always a little bit neurotic about my health though.
yeah, I think probably all of us are, and probably listeners that have like been through like health challenges or something, they're always kind of like, oh my gosh, well, I didn't know about this. What else is wrong? So that makes perfect sense. And so I know a little bit about your journey just because I really was interested in your jewelry and we went on your website. So I think you conceived pretty quickly once you got married. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it happened. I mean, I think it was like first try, honestly. And it was sort of shocking because we just didn't plan it that quickly. But if you know my daughter, like she was ready to come into the world and be really loud and in charge, and she still is. So yeah.
That's
Um,
I'm sure such like a relief too when you actually did like start to try. You're like, oh, okay, so the one like is still working and is still good. Like I can have kids. This is great.
yeah, you're right. It was really cool. It was really cool. And I was a little bit worried because during my the tumor removal, they decided to cut me vertically. So my incision is from like just below my belly button, almost all the way down, because they wanted to be able to take that tumor out in one piece. So I was a little worried about pregnancy and that incision scar growing really big, or the scar tissue being pregnant, all that, but everything was fine. I don't even have like stretch marks, and
That's
then
amazing.
you know what, I actually I forgot about this, but I feel like I don't have stretch marks because of that incision scar. I feel like it gave room for my body to grow a little bit
I love
more.
it.
Like trying
Yeah,
to
I
find the
hear that.
silver linings.
Yeah, I hear that, and it's probably a little different, but like with classical C-sections where they do more of like the vertical, it can cause like complication just because I mean it's a scar. So that's
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
oh my gosh, you had so much that you were going through of just like I don't want to say PTSD, but just trauma from the
sure,
past.
you could
You were
say it.
like, yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? So you have your daughter. At this point, you guys, have you always wanted a bigger family?
Yeah, my husband and I are both only children.
Oh,
So
okay.
we knew that our kids were not going to have any aunts and uncles or cousins. And so we were like, we got to give them some siblings. And so yeah, so I remember my daughter's first birthday, kind of around her first birthday, and we were sitting in the living room, and she was like on my lap looking at my face, and she was starting to say facial features like I, mouth, no, and I was having this connection with her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have another baby right now. I love her too much. This is amazing. And so I really struggled about when to start trying for the second one, but I also didn't want to wait too long because, um, but I remember kind of pushing it out a little bit. And then when we started trying for the second one, it was taking a really long time. And I was like, well, this is not normal for us, normal, quote unquote. And so it took almost a year to get pregnant, and we were really excited. And so Georgia was like 2 at this, or almost 2. And I had actually already been seeing or going to a doctor at an IVF clinic because it had been so long. And I think I had done like an IUI that didn't work and with my gynecologist or OB. And so they sent me over to this IVF clinic where they were really just helping me like figure stuff out. They weren't pushing IVF. They were just like, oh, maybe you could take this medicine or do this or whatever, right? But then I got pregnant. It was yay. But I went in for a really early ultrasound, luckily. But again, the ultrasound tech who gets really silent and is being weird. And I was like, something is up. I just knew it. And my mom was with me that day. So she leaves, and then my doctor comes in and like gets on the ultrasound. And then she was like, so, I actually don't even remember what she said, but I remember her telling me that the baby was growing in the wrong place. But you could see its heartbeat. And that was just like the saddest thing for me. Like, didn't think
Yeah.
I'd get emotional. It's been a while, but um, it's just like a really strong little person like trying to grow in there. And so that was also kind of emergency surgery again. And because I only had the one fallopian tube and that's where the baby was growing, I asked this doctor, because normal procedure, I think, is that they just take the fallopian tube.
Hmm.
And I asked her, I said, can you save it? Can you try to save the tube? She goes, I cannot make any promises, but I'll try. And she did. She saved it. But she said, you should go IVF because now you have scar tissue. You've already been trying for a year. The chances with the scar tissue in there, if you try right now, it's a higher chance of you having another ectopic. So I was like, okay, let's just go
Yeah,
for it.
because those fallopian tubes are really tiny. Like that's so impressive that she was able to save the tube.
Right?
Yeah.
I love her. She actually wears my jewelry too.
Oh, well, we are so sorry for your loss. I personally, that's the one type of miscarriage I've not had is ectopic. And I can only imagine like seeing that healthy baby like thriving and you're like, but you're in the wrong place. Can you move
Can you
it?
see it?
on
Yeah,
science. I feel like there's got to be a way here soon for them to be able to like pick the
I
baby up, put it in
I
the right.
know. I
Yeah,
know.
I'm pretty sure I asked that question and she just kind of looked at me like,
Yeah. Yeah. I Googled the question. I've all because I'm just like what like it just it's so devastating. So I'm so sorry for your loss. And again, I mean the trauma that came with like having to go into emergency surgery to have your tube removed prior and then having that same situation again. Okay, so at this point you're like we're on track for IVF. Like I think that's probably the best bet.
yeah. Yeah, I liked that idea. And I didn't even say that I had to have a C-section with my first daughter. So this was basically my third surgery, that ectopic one. And so and the C-section scar was a normal C-section scar, so like low.
For yours, but no, they did a new like
Yeah,
incision.
right, new incision. Um, and then the ectopic removal was endoscopic. So they did like the three
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
aside.
Gosh.
Um, So yes, we went IVF and I was very new to it. I had no idea anything about it, really. And I feel like even at that time, which was like 2017, that this was when people were really not talking about it, you know? And I started just videotaping everything I was going through and I was editing them and I put them all on YouTube. And still, I mean, just everything like what the medications, day one, what it looks like, follow-ups with your doctor, the blood draws that you have, all the time, and the shot, different. Yeah, I would like unbox all my medications, and I feel like literally nobody was doing this at that time, but I have some funny videos on there. And like the first time I had to do that huge shot, in the back, I say huge, I'm like freaking everybody out. It's like not that bad, but that was what I felt. So the doctor was like, "Do you want to just do the first one in the office with our nurse?" And I was like, "Yes." So my husband is videotaping me with this shot, and I'm totally freaked looking back. And I'm like, okay, are you gonna do it yet? Like, let's go. And she had already done it.
Oh wow. Is that the progesterone shot?
Yes,
Yeah, those are pretty big.
they are, but I was just trying to calm
Yeah.
myself for everybody else's sake. But I didn't even feel it. I didn't
That's
even
awesome.
know.
So good.
And
Yeah.
so then that calmed me. But
That's
um, yeah, my husband did all my shots for me. He was great.
Oh.
I think he really liked it, honestly. Like,
being a part of the process.
no,
Yeah.
like stabbing me. That part.
There we go.
That's
That is hilarious. That's so funny.
I really do. But you know what? There's a part of IVF that I think a lot of people don't think about, or at least then that didn't think about, is what are you going to do with the the little embryos that you have left, right? Because when you're going through IVF, you think, I got to have my best chances. And that's also the doctor, you're spending so much money, you know? But when we went to that class, or you sit there and you have to go through all the paperwork that you're signing, and that came up, it was like, what are you going to do? You can destroy them. They say you can put them up for adoption. You can give them to science. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have never thought of this. And so I talked to my doctor about it. And, I only have one ovary. So how many eggs am I actually going to get? And it's such a guess, right? It's such a guess. But she really took me, I love that she took me seriously and heard me and really tried to work with me, because she could have said, Juliana, like, we just need to get as many eggs as possible. And I probably would have listened to her, but she was like, okay, we can pull eggs back, and I was like, well, what's that magic number? It's like, I don't know. And but she was like, let's just do 10. So 10, let's try for with 10 eggs. And so I think I think it was 12 eggs or something, I can't even remember now. 11 eggs, but we stuck with the 10. So we did not try to fertilize the extra ones.
Okay, I was gonna say, can you explain that to me? So they went ahead during the egg retrieval and they took all the eggs they could get, but then they kind of held, and we've had another guest do that as well, where you pretty much pick the number of eggs you want fertilized. And then did you
Yeah.
store the extra egg or just discard? How does that work?
It's too, I think the way it was, at least then, because it's been a while for me to be there. Um, it's such a big process to freeze eggs that if it's like one or two, that's like very risky that for them to survive.
That makes
And yeah, maybe if I had like 20 extra eggs, we would have
yeah.
had a different discussion. Yeah. But
That's
it was
awesome.
very difficult to, just like throw some eggs away.
Yeah, especially because you just didn't know at that time. Like, and I think like for me, I
Yeah.
remember going through that process where you're saying it's like kind of like the scarcity method of like, I need to get everything I can because I may only get, and like for me, I only did get one embryo. But to your point, you're like, well, what happens if I get 10? What am I going to do? And the first one works. So yeah, I mean, that all makes sense. It's a lot to think about before you know the results.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're thinking about it and you're figuring it all out, but from what? I mean, you don't know
Make-
anything.
Making up numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just making them up. Okay, well, if I pull these many eggs back, I'm gonna have this many. And it's like, no, this you could have zero, you could have 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's what it is. And so so yeah, we've just fertilized 10. Let's see if I remember my numbers. We had three at the end, and we also paid for that. Is it PGS testing? For it to all of them to go to the lab and get a special genetic test. So one came back fairly abnormal, where they were just like, this is not going to work at all. So I had two left. And
Wow.
I felt like that was good because I was like, okay, I'm
You're
going to
like,
have all
yeah.
of them, you
Uh-huh.
know, three
Yep.
kids is fine. It's not like seven kids. I can handle this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So we went through it and had the embryo transfer day, and it all worked just like textbook. And this was my first experience. So of course I was like, oh, no,
Easy.
IVF's easy.
Yeah, IVF's the key. IVF is, if I can't do it myself, IVF's gonna work. Yeah, that's makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, luckily I had that experience. I know so many that don't, but then it was, we had planned for that third, and we knew they were both girls, and we planned um her birthday, everything, like when we were going to have that third little girl, because of course it was going to work. It was so easy the first time, easy, quote unquote. But yeah, so we planned it and we did everything the same, and then I got the call that it did not work.
The worst feeling.
I was on it was a Zoom, I think, with the doctor. Um, yeah, you know what, you guys, I need to back up.
I was gonna say your jewelry company started with your second, right?
Yeah, but there is something too that you guys don't even know, which is wild. And I have to tell you.
Oh,
I'm like, tell us all things.
Okay, where do I start? Okay, because the jewelry didn't even come. So this is wild. So you know the egg retrieval day, egg retrieval day. They tell you, they're like, okay, they go in there and they get the eggs. And then um, when you're done, say you're going to use the bathroom, right? And if there's like any blood or anything, like just let us know and we'll come look at it. So I went to the bathroom and there was quite a bit of blood. And so I showed the nurse. She's like, oh, that's fine. Just flushed it down. And they sent me home. And it was like 8 hours later, 6 hours later, I could not pee like a little bit, not even a drop.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, that's weird. Not even a drop of pee. And so it was like very late, 11 or something. And I ended up having to call my doctor. And I was like, is this normal? Because I was so tired. and I wasn't really drinking any fluid. So me, I was like, maybe I just don't have any in me. Like, I don't know. Um, and she's like, no, this is not normal. You need to go to the ER. So I go to the ER. I just had my egg retrieval that day. I'm going to the ER. I have to tell them I had an egg retrieval and but I can't urinate. So they put this catheter in, and again, my mom's with me, and I can see her face, and she's usually a very good person to not bring any sort of scare. She's very calm, but I could see her eyes were just growing bigger and bigger as they were putting this catheter in because I guess all of this black urine was coming out, which
That's
it was
terrifying.
blood out of my bladder. So what had happened is they had punctured my bladder in the egg retrieval.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my God.
Yeah, and I guess that's really rare.
It's super rare. But
So
honestly, thank you for
rare.
sharing that because I think like I mean, I remember like giving birth to my daughter and they're like very, very specific of like you can't leave this room until you like can pee. And so like that to me is like something like okay, that's probably similar to like the egg retrieval or any type of surgery.
I didn't even know that like could happen while they're in there. I didn't even know that could like be a potential
They
risk.
can puncture really anything. Uh,
Really, I guess, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, they do it all the time. I feel like it is very, very rare. I mean, rare things happen to me. Have we noticed this?
Yes. I was gonna say. Okay, so at what point? Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Like black blood coming
It was
out.
because it was like getting so old, right? And it was like a
Yeah.
lot of it. And so what was happening was the blood was clotting and it was just stopping up the urethra. So nothing was getting out. So when they put the catheter in, of course, they didn't know that this was happening. So I think, so yeah, they sent me home with a leg catheter. And so I come home and like I've had many catheters before this, so I kind of knew how they worked. And I went to sleep and I woke up 3 hours later and I looked at the catheter bag and there was nothing in it. And so I knew, I was like, I gotta go back to the ER. So I drove myself to the ER because my daughter was asleep. My husband had to like stay with her. And at this point, it was like 4 in the morning.
Oh my
And
God.
so I drove myself back to the ER and they had to put a huge three-way catheter in there because the clots needed to pass. So it was just this big thing. And then they had to flush out my bladder, which was very painful.
My
I
goodness.
can't even imagine what that entails. Oh my
No.
gosh.
And then at the same time, I was going through ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome because I had, with one ovary, I kind of think that they pushed me a little bit more to do all the medicines and to grow the eggs a
Yeah.
little bit more than they would if I had two ovaries. So it was a very high chance of me having OHSS. And so there it was. So I had this three-way leg catheter that I had to wear for a week or two. And then I looked like I was 6 months pregnant with the OHSS. And yeah, and still, at this point, my eggs were just in the lab, right? Like
Yeah. Oh my
trying to.
gosh. Well, thank you for going back and sharing that because, like, I think for listeners that if they get OHSS or if they have like something as wild as a puncture, your transfer then ultimately did work on the first try, right? Like, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I would have been scared that that would have affected the transfer.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we had decided on not doing a fresh transfer already
Yeah.
before this. I don't think a fresh transfer would have worked.
For sure. And I think
No,
now, and probably back in 20, was it still 2017 or we
2017. Yeah.
okay, yeah, I think it was more common that they did fresh, but I know I did IVF in 2021 and it was like very normalized to do frozen. And maybe because they've just learned of like so much. Your body's just gone through so much and then all of a sudden you're trying to get it pregnant a couple days later is kind of crazy to think
Yeah,
about.
I don't remember what my reasoning was for it, but I guess maybe I just felt like I needed that break.
For sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really remember.
So did you have a recovery period for the bladder puncture?
Yes. I can't remember if it was like 1 or 2 weeks, 7 to 10 days or something. I had to wear the catheter. And I was driving all around. I was like living my life with this thing on. Um, And I remember though, that the doctor was like, yeah, you can just, when it's time, like, you just take it out and pee. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this in the office with you. We're
Yeah.
going to make sure that I can go to the bathroom, right? And so I went there and I went in the bathroom and like when I could urinate, I came out. We kind of waited around a little bit. It was normal and everything. I was like, okay, now I'm good.
Yeah.
So I haven't had any issues since then, but
Amazing.
yeah. It wasn't my doctor that did the egg retrieval. It's always like whatever, whoever's kind of on call for the day that it makes sense, right? You just
Yeah.
can't guarantee who's going to do it, but they're all really great. It's just like kind of part of it. I mean,
The risk, I know, and you never think you'll be that less than 1%.
mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah, I
And
don't really share that much too, but
I don't know if you can hear me. When did then your like company start? During this time? Or like
okay, so in the egg, let's see, in a transfer day, they give you that sweet little picture
yes.
your little baby as a blastocyst. And I remember holding that picture and I had it on my chest during the transfer. Um, and then they also do that live video of so the picture was taken in the morning, but then they do a live video of it and it was hatching, right? And it started to look like a little infinity. And the doctor was like, "Oh, look, it's like a little infinite, like a forever science, your forever baby." And I was like, "Oh, that is everything right now. I just needed to
Yes.
hear that." And so I'm like holding this little baby picture and I'm looking at this forever symbol. And I get to watch the whole transfer, and it's all on video on YouTube. You can watch it. And they put the little baby inside me, and then this is my daughter Holly. And so it just that picture of the blastocyst lived on my refrigerator for the whole time I was pregnant, and I kept looking at it, and I could see that it meant a lot to me. And I also had this gold necklace that I was wearing that had Georgia's name, like the little letters, of her name spelled out. And it was very dainty, like we all like. And I love stuff like that. I love this like personalized jewelry and just meaningful things. And that's like all I want to wear is really meaningful jewelry. So I finally just was staring at it and was like, this needs to be jewelry. This
Yeah.
is what? Like,
And you did such a good job. Like we'll definitely in the show notes click or add your website, but like it looks like an embryo and you somehow made it like very classic and pretty and something that you would want to wear. Like it's so
Oh,
pretty.
thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's so good to hear. And it took a lot. I had this vision in my head, but then, you're just like drawing it on paper.
And like
And
how do you,
how
I mean, yeah, like how do you make a embryo, a day 5 embryo on a gold, tiny, really dainty piece of jewelry and you somehow figured it out. It looks so good.
Well,
So
I
pretty.
will give a shout out to my dad because he is my biggest fan of, I mean, my mom too, but my dad is the one that can do all of this like crazy research and figure things out. And so going through, jewelry manufacturers and figuring out how to get into the jewelry space took a long time, a lot of money, a lot of, like you get this sample and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is not going to be okay.
Yeah.
And and then you get things. And I remember I had it, I don't know, you can see it here, but the little symbol, the chain, it locks in on like the 9 to 3, right? And I remember I finally found this great jewelry manufacturer and they had the design. We had CAD file. My husband's a structural engineer, so he could help me with this CAD file. I mean, I had everybody from everywhere trying to just piece this idea together. And it comes back to me and they have it at like 11 and 2 connection. And I was like, well, this is not, I don't like that. And she was like, well, we have to do that because then it'll flip and rotate around. It needs to be at 11 and 2 to like hang there. And I was like, no, I don't want that. Right, there was this like balance that I wanted.
Yeah,
of
I
how
totally.
the chain just connects. I mean, there's so much to it, right? That you don't think about it, but I just didn't like the way that looked. It didn't look centered and this equilibrium type of
Amanda's
feel.
probably laughing because she knows like I'm that way. Like I'm very, very peculiar of like how I want things, but you can tell like when you go, there's a lot of people in the jewelry space with infertility, IVF, and some of it's good, but like I look at yours and it's like perfect. Like I would just be like, okay, this is exactly
Yeah.
what I would want to wear. And especially if you're gonna wear it every single day, it's so good that you took your time with it.
Percent.
Thank
I'm like,
you.
I should order one immediately. It's
Well,
so
I was
pretty.
thinking, I know I was thinking of Amanda. I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so perfect for her. Like I did IVF, but mine did not. Mine resulted in a miscarriage. But Amanda's son is her. It was through IVF, and it's just so pretty. And you have multiple options on the website. I know I keep referring to the one charm that's like the embryo, but you have, and I know you mentioned like the infinity one as well.
Yeah, well, in the Ember, the main one, I wanted it to be something where you didn't have like people weren't like, oh, that's an embryo or that's a blastocyst. Like it's just a symbol. It can be just some beautiful design. You don't want to tell anybody why you're wearing it or what it represents to you, because sometimes it's too personal to talk about. And sometimes it's also nice that it's just yours, right? Whatever that means to you. So I also in the chain in the back, there's a little infinity sign and it's like part of the chain. So you can almost miss it. And I wanted it to be a little bit more out of sight and in the back by the clasp because that is like, it's like when you wear Ember, that's your secret club symbol. Like you've been through something, whatever that means, because it's so different for all of us, but we're all in it together, right? And then I just wanted it to be a little bit more hidden.
I love that philosophy for me. Like I always would get those Morse code bracelets for that exact reason.
Mm.
It was like, and I would gift them to people and say, this is for you. You know what this means, whether it said like angel baby or the date or whatever you chose. And it was such a like opening jewelry, tattoos, anything that's like unique is like an opening conversation. And it allowed the person wearing the jewelry to kind of say, do I want to share it with you or do I not? And so I just love that. It's like you can choose if you want to share or not, and it's like so personal.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. But yeah, my to go back to the options, I have everything, well, the Ember necklace in yellow gold, rose gold, and white gold. And then I have earrings, necklaces, and bracelets. And then,
Oh,
yes, my newest piece is the Forever chain that I'm wearing here. It looks so similar, like to your dainty one that you're wearing right now. That's layering piece. Because I thought, I really want something that is more like a layering piece. Because what happens is a lot of people already have a meaningful piece of jewelry or necklace that they already wear, and maybe they love Ember, but they're like, I just love the one with my kids' initials or whatever. I don't want to replace that. So I get it, but layering is so in. I feel like that's timeless, right? And so I was like, let's create this layering piece. And so my layering piece is now that hidden infinity chain, a little bit less hidden. So it is multiple times throughout the chain, and that's what it is.
oh, that's awesome.
Beautiful. I love it. I'm literally on your website right now and I'm like, okay, this is so stunning. I feel like everyone needs this. So
It is.
definitely
It's like a big like Christmas present or something. It's all so so pretty. And I don't want to because I mean we can totally go back to Ember, but I don't want to leave out your third and final baby. So you create Ember during your second embryo transfer. You have the photo on your fridge, and this all comes about. At what time did your son come into the picture?
Yeah, so there is a video on my website and that talks about my journey, and I had that professionally done. Uh and it was like 2 days before I had to shoot that my embryo transfer failed. I
yeah.
had this whole thing ready to go. I was going to show both pictures of Holly and of my other little girl, and I had all the little embryos right there. And I was going to talk about the jewelry and create this commercial, basically. And yeah, I got this bad news, right before I had to shoot, and I couldn't cancel the shoot. And so I remember having both embryo pictures out, and I couldn't get through anything when I would look at this second embryo picture. And so the production crew, this girl, she said, "I'm so sorry, but I think you just need to put that one away so that we can, get through this."
That's
She
tough.
was very sweet about it. And it was the right move for sure. But I feel so bad because then that little baby didn't get to be part of the video really. Um, I mean, nobody would care about that but me, right?
No,
But
it makes total sense. I mean, we started this podcast 2 days after my failed IVF or
oh,
miscarriage, and I'm like, but then you look back and you see how your story unfolds. But no, I thanks for sharing that too.
no, thank you. So, I had to like talk about Ember and everything, but it also solidified what Ember is about, right? And I was literally going through it right there. Like here, I thought it was going to be all positive. My life is just perfect. Everything worked out. And no, I was like, just a day or two ago, like this maybe it just didn't work, you know? And, but it makes Ember that much more meaningful, right? Because there are people, I didn't really realize how Ember was going to affect people. And I have been getting these emails of, um, I'll see like a random purchase come through, and I always try to write something personal and hope that they will reach out to me as a resource, and I'm not just some, you know, machine like with these just sending them out. That I really do want to hear about people's story and their journey and why they're wearing Ember and like why they're now part of the club, right? It's like I want to know, and so I write this letter, but it, it was just amazing. I think the first email I got where they were like, okay, I ordered your necklace. I was searching everywhere. And the moment I put it on, I felt connected, to the babies that are not earthside with me. And I touch it when I think about them. And I feel so much better. And I was like, wow,
What an
wow. Like I had no idea that it was going to go into that depth. I think maybe I mean, I just kind of thought it would be meaningful for people, but to actually start healing and helping with grief, that's so hard to do. And it doesn't have to be that, right? I have friends that wear it who just conceive naturally, but they wanted a different way to represent that baby that wasn't the initial thing that is really popular or the name, or they just wanted something different. I have two people that wear a double ember. It has two ember symbols on the chain. And so I'll usually just make those custom as that order is wanted or needed or but
I
those
love
and
I love that. And you were very specific in your, when you go to your website, you're very specific about what Ember is and who's it for. And I feel like it related to Amanda and I. It's like, it's if you had infertility or fertility. Like, it's not that like you had to go through this crazy experience. It's your journey to motherhood and how you want to represent it and like relate to it. I love that.
Oh, Catherine, thank you. You're like pulling it out. You totally get it.
I
I love
noticed it because we were super intentional with our name, like what the fertility, and we
it.
left infertility out because we wanted to include those women that adopted or didn't have like necessarily a hard time conceiving, but had something else occur that just everybody's path to motherhood is so unique and wanting to make sure just people didn't feel alone in that and had like resources. So I totally noticed it when I read it.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, that is what it's supposed to be for. And I think a lot of people kind of go, oh, it's IVF jewelry. And that's also why I wanted to create that forever chain because some people just think like it had to only be IVF jewelry. But then this one, I kind of wanted to branch out a little bit and give options. But yeah, it does not have to just mean that you went through IVF at all. It's just like, because all our babies look like this. They are
Yeah,
all
they all
blastocysts at some
start
point,
there.
whether they're in a petri dish or inside your body, right? It's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same.
Yes.
And like, you were asking me previously just to make sure that we were pronouncing Ember right. And Ember, it took me forever to figure out the name. Forever.
But I
I
love it because it's two parts, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like I was with a bunch of girlfriends at a winery actually, and I just in my head. I wasn't even really there. I was just in my head, like, what am I going to name this? And because it was already in production, or I was getting samples with the jewelry manufacturer, and I started yelling at my friends, and I was like, what is a name for like a tiny spark of life, like just a tiny spark, like the beginning of life? And I was like, oh my gosh, Ember, like a little spark. Yes, Ember. It's like an Ember. It's a starting a fire. And it just all made sense to me. And I remember I went home, and my dad was a big part of this, and I said, Dad, I think I figured it out, Ember. And he was like, I like it, but he's like, you need to figure out like a fun, different spelling, like something has to. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And so that's why it's at Embyr,
Yeah.
because now the word kind of looks like embryo,
I love
but
it.
it's an ember. It is the beginning of life. It's that spark.
It's literally perfect. The name is
Oh,
perfect.
thank you.
So where can listeners find you and find your jewelry? I think you mostly are, do you share any of your story like privately or like on your personal page, or is it mostly your jewelry page?
Oh, so I have my website, and it's emberforever.com. So Embyr forever.com. And then it's the same on Instagram, but my handle is Ember_forever. Um, and I think, Ember alone was taken for everything, right? So I was like, okay, I gotta go with Ember forever. But it's fine, right? Because we have the forever symbol on
Yeah.
all our pieces. So I would say that. And then I do have a YouTube channel if anybody is like starting out IVF. I would say it's more for that and like what to expect, and going through medications. And I won't even know if I have like a handle. It's probably just my name. My maiden last name is Jason, which I think is easier than Brian.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my business stuff, I just go with Jason. So probably it's YouTube, Juliana Jason is what.
That's awesome. Well, we will share that in the show notes. And I heard you say too that you can possibly do custom pieces. So if people are on your website and do want like that too, they could just reach out to you. Probably you have somewhere to reach out via the website, but also on Instagram.
Yes, yes, all of those things. And if you look on Instagram right now, one of my most recent posts is somebody who her husband bought her a bracelet and gave it to her right after the transfer for her transfer day and surprised her. And she sent me these videos. And so I put together a little sweet reel about that. She was so wonderful to let me share it. And I just love that. And then, anybody listening right now, just send this over to your partners, your husbands, like because those are the people that are buying Ember.
Yeah.
I always think I need to sort of get the word out to us women who are going through it, but we are busy and we're emotional. We got stuff going on, and we're not thinking about what we're gonna just buy, like, frilly willy nilly, right?
And for
And
ourselves, right? Yeah. It's like,
yeah, exactly. So I gotta go to some sort of dad show somewhere.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Is there anything else that you want to share? I know that you do share your story on your website as well. And again, I will be looking at the jewelry. It's so pretty. We will share all of the links in the show notes.
Thank you. You guys have been great and so supportive, and you understand Ember too, which I really, really appreciate. And then I will just bring it home with after all of this. And we had no embryos left. My husband and I said, you know what, let's just try for a third. And if we get an ectopic pregnancy, we won't try again. And we got my son.
Oh, congratulations. That is so beautiful. So how old are all three of your kids now?
They are 9, 6, and 3.
I
Wow.
love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for waking up at the crack of not even dawn.
Do you see
Juliana,
this light? I
it's
got
light
light now.
now, is over in California. So we really appreciate you being here with us this morning. And we can't wait to just kind of follow along with your journey and share all of this with our listeners.